Welcome to Deep Transformation, Self-Society Spirit. I'm Roger Walsh, and our co-host is John Dupuy, author of Integral Recovery. And our guest today is Dr. Tyson Yunkaporta, a fellow Australian, a man of many parts and many perspectives, who's lived in many worlds and has many, many talents. By birth, he's an Australian Aboriginal of the Alapesh clan, which is in far northern Queensland. Probably, I think, very close to where I grew up in Julia Creek, a little town of 400. And he's an artist who does traditional wood carvings, also an art critic and an academic. He founded the Deakin University Indigenous Knowledge Systems Lab and is a senior lecturer in Indigenous knowledges. He's also an author of dozens of academic articles, a lot of them on pedagogy, teaching, both Western and Aboriginal teaching methods. And he's the author of, as of now, at the time of this conversation, one book, but with another soon to be out, and which will be out by the time this is uploaded. His first book is Sand Talk, How Indigenous Thinking Can Save the World. And his new book, Right Story, Wrong Story. And perhaps as intriguingly as anything for me, he's also a podcast host of the podcast The Other Others, which I have had a great time listening to. So Tyson, welcome. So it's a pleasure on many reasons to have you with us. And you've had a really unique role. You have been immersed in two different worldviews, cultures, educational systems, lifeways. And you have acted as a kind of intermediary between these two. Maybe we could just start with a big picture. What have been the advantages and the challenges of living in two worlds as you have?
Well, I don't know, even just the idea of, there being these two worlds and that you have an option of living in one or the other. We don't. Australia is squatting right here on top of us, illegally. And, they don't speak our languages, so we have to speak theirs. So, in that vein, I say hello. And I'm talking to you from Bunurong country right now in, down the bottom of Australia. Pretty close to Antarctica. If the world was flat, like some people say, I could get a decent telescope and just watch Antarctica crumbling into the sea right now, and and then just sort of wait for all the superstorms and drones to come after that. Because here we are at the end of the world, gentlemen. And like I say, we don't really have an option to live in one world or the other. As Aboriginal people, we live in I don't know if you think about a Venn diagram, people think two equal circles overlapping. It's like, well, if you imagine one of those circles a lot smaller and sort of hanging off the bottom, like some sort of scrotum, that's our world there. But we don't live in our world. We can visit our world for like conjugal visits. Where we have to live is in the overlap space, that tiny little interface. We must master the codes of the colony. We must speak the languages. We must do the work, train, get the jobs, try not to die, go to about 10 times as many funerals as everyone else and just try and scrape through. So I don't live in two worlds. I live in a colony and there's only one world in that one. So I guess that's what it's like. It's just, I don't know, you both look perturbed, but I find all that hilariously funny, because what else are you going to do?
Well,
so,
no,
when I write,
I feel a lot
when
of
I write
pain.
about it, I try and make it jokes about it,
I was saying I'm feeling perturbed. I'm feeling pain. My heart's opening to you. I can feel that you've been through a lot of stuff, and anyway. So
Oh well, it's a bad week, so it's I don't know. I'm not doing my due diligence on the comedy side, so I better get my act together there and start being funnier. It's I think that's how we survive. We have very good sense of humor. We have lots of big yarns, and we laugh a lot. And we laugh right in the middle of bad stuff, even. And we're very high functioning mourners because we have a very good a really excellent mourning process and funerary rites and all these sorts of things that are designed to facilitate um, fast healing, good, strong, deep healing, from grief.
can you say a little
amazing psychotechnologies of mourning, like even right down to the collective death wail, and that's that sort of frequency of the death wail and how that just goes through you. That's healing. All of the little rituals and stages and processions and and then follow-up rituals that go for up to a year afterwards. All these things are really healing, and quite amazing, and they can really sort of get you get you in the old grind set. You're able to sort of go to work again on the Monday and hold your head up and get out there in the two worlds that we're supposed to be living in. It's like, no, we live in this one world where there's real estate etched over the top of our land. Our land is transformed into real estate, which is somebody else's capital, which they use to borrow against, to speculate on, speculate into infinity, in a derivatives market, invented by the Dutch, who landed here incidentally 500 years ago, and we speared the bastards, and they went back, and their response to that was to start the world's first corporation. So it's kind of our fault. It's our fault. We started the whole.
getting speared does things like that. Yeah.
You spear a bunch of Dutchmen, they're gonna go back and have a bit of a psychotic response and start the East India Company, and then I don't know, invent art speculation as well. So NFTs is probably our fault as well. Anyway, we're doing our best to live in this one new different world that's got lots of different layers sort of just sort of scabbed over the top of our reality, and we just do our best to try and heal and thrive and continue underneath all of that, as we change and we look different, because as much as traditionally settlers have sort of talked about how they find us disgusting, they kind of seem to be attracted to us quite a bit. So there's quite a bit of sexual activity going on cross between these two worlds, and so we end up with You Look Like Me, which is so there's about half of us who just look like me, which is pretty much just Kate Blanchett with a beard.
I think
doesn't look very authentic,
I think you're a pretty good mix, and America is a land of mutts, and we make the best dogs. So, in my opinion, so it's okay.
I'm a mongrel indigene with a number of pathologies, mental illnesses, and stuff like that just happen to be in just the right mix to produce some interesting writing from time to time.
That's for sure. I wanted to ask you, we were talking about, this is a book that Roger and I just read, and we've both been listening to your talks and podcasts and whatnot. But before the camera started, so to speak, you said that your new book is in a large way refuting a lot of what you wrote in this book. So I would just, I'm really up on this book, so I got to hear this.
Well, it's and I don't know. I'll have to write the third book before I can get back to you on that one. I think it's a trilogy. It's looking like it's going to be a trilogy, but I'm bipolar. So I wrote Sand Talk in 2 weeks during a manic episode.
Yeah.
Manic episode that lasted about a month. But yeah, so I just whizzed out that manuscript in 2 weeks. I didn't even take leave from work. I was anyway. Yeah, so I just kind of got it done over 2 weeks. And I don't know if you know anything about mania and bipolar. There's a lot of grandiosity and a lot of like overly complicated thinking, and you know, I don't know. You tend to feel like you can do anything,
Yeah.
and you know, so it's written from that point of view. And I was also watching a lot of Russian propaganda at the time. So you see bits and pieces of weird stuff come through. There was a whole chapter that had to be deleted. I just wrote a whole pro-Gaddafi chapter that had to be deleted, and I was really happy that they did later. But yeah, that kind of weirdness. I don't know. There's even a little bit where I'm hinting at chemtrails stuff there. So you'll see I get quite red pilled on YouTube. I was watching like Russia Today, like most days. And, you know, so I had a lot of Gaddafi nostalgia, and I hated Hillary Clinton's guts and all this weird stuff going on. You know, there was really good, deep right story and wisdom from the old people in that book, you know. So that's right. And there's a lot of the analysis that I do that I leverage off of that, and a lot of the stories that I report on, you know, things that have happened, and a lot of the research that I report on in there. This is all good stuff and right story. But there's about 10% of the book which is me just spinning off into a weird mania and saying some weird stuff and making some pretty outrageous claims. There's also, I don't know, if you look closely, there's propaganda there. Like the whole bit about education being being a Russian eugenics experiment, you know, public education, that bit. Like, yes, all the facts in that story were true, but they ignored a lot of other facts as well. That story ignored a lot of other facts in order to be that story. So therefore, it was wrong story. You know, I wasn't reporting on reality as it was. I was just taking bits of reality and then modeling a story, a narrative out of that suited my singular goal and singular aim of denouncing public education, you know, and causing people to question and even, feel antipathy towards the institution. And I also attacked medicine in the same way, science in the same way. You know, I attacked all these Western institutions and ways of being and thinking and doing, without very much intellectual rigor, but just using sort of small g guru tricks, you know, cult induction, bloody, neurolinguistic programming kind of stuff, you know, how you, I don't know, love bomb people and then all of a sudden slap them, and then while they're confused you offer them a heuristic which they inhale directly and completely. Stuff like that. I didn't even know I was doing it, but I did do that. Yeah. But the next book I've written, it took me 2 years to write, you know, from the absolute depths of suicidal depression. So I probably went too far the other way with the next one. The third one, I'm looking, you know, Three Bears, Goldilocks, just right. Maybe, you know, we'll see how I go with the next book.
So are you saying that your latest book is darker than Sand Talk?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Like the next book I build it off Dante's Inferno. That's the structure of the book. And we're basically going through 9 circles of developmental hell on Earth. Yeah. And looking at each circle of hell, looking at the crimes and the pathologies, the general mass hysteria, pathologies that are going on in the world, the moral panics and everything else that sort of align with those sins, you know, at each circle of hell, Dante's sins, but also that line up with different mental illnesses that we saw emerging, you know, individually, but also at the group, at the population level, you know, over COVID. particularly here in Melbourne, which had the harshest lockdowns on the planet for a couple of years. Yeah, we had a lot of crazy coming out, including mine, during that period. Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
Sandtalk is weird because it's really, really good. But then it's also, there's some weird stuff in there. And, there's even some of the elders who are sharing wisdom. They also went crazy over COVID and became anti-vaccine nuts and agitators and, influencers, producing content on YouTube, anti-vaccination, New World Order, sovereign citizen movement. So you've got Aboriginal people aligning themselves and marching alongside white supremacists in sort of COVID denialist, sort of very weird actions. It's been crazy here. Aboriginal Australia has gone nuts here the same way everybody else has gone nuts. And it's been a strange thing to go through, but it gives you perspective on things like Sandtalk. And looking back, that was a different time. You could mess around with a bit of disinformation then, and it was just fun. But I think now, with all the stochastic terrorism we see in the world, particularly in the United States, but also exported out to New Zealand and Australia, when we start to see that the damage that disinformation causes, it's not a bit of fun anymore, and it's not a joke anymore, and it's not just a way to sell supplements. It's it's a force multiplier for catastrophic risk in the world. Everything from climate change to everything else. So anyway, that's what this next book is about. It's that's why I say it's called Right Story, Wrong Story, because it's really looking at that disinformation, how you can identify it, and then how we can collectively move towards building right story. And it's not by monologuing for like half an hour like I just did, by the way. That's not a yarn. That's just some guy talking. Sorry about that. But you did ask me what it was like to live in two worlds. So anyway, it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that about the place you wrote the book from, because it was a puzzling one for me. There were parts that really stimulated, and the other parts that felt like, there's a pretty clear subtext of, Western culture not so good, and not too subtle in some cases. So, and some of the associations left me wondering. So, the fact that it was written in a kind of mania makes a lot of sense. But good, incredible creative juices there too.
Yeah, that's just it. There's gifts that come with it, but there's curses as well. And thanks for thanks for speaking that, and for noting that. A lot of people just, I don't know if they're trying to be polite or what, but they skip over that, and I find that those conversations are a waste of time.
It felt
it's important to note the things that aren't working properly, because that's how we fix the next one.
And John and I have listened to a lot of your interviews, and it's felt like there's also a lot of softball stuff here going, and we really wanted to get into a little deeper, and you dived right in without hesitation. And and just to acknowledge how gutsy you are in acknowledging the manic high and the depressive low from which you've written. And the manic productivity makes total sense. Being able to write, as you say, from the depths of suicidal despair, that's a whole nother process and challenge.
Yeah.
I vow that you were able to do that.
Well, and I've only recently, like last couple of months, I've gotten treatment and medication. So I'm sort of just coming into some kind of, even keel now, which, it's the dosage is obviously not quite right yet. I tell you what, though, it's amazing, like for the first time in my life, because it's a really rare form of bipolar that I've got, that you have from early childhood, like you have it right the way through.
Childhood onset.
So that's my first suicide attempt was when I was 9 years old, and so I can't remember a day in my life of not waking up wanting to die, like from when I was a little kid. But with this medication over the last couple of months, I've got to experience what it is to wake up in the morning as a human being and want to live. And it's it's amazing.
It's good.
God, you people wow. The lives you have. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 51 and I'm just starting to live. It's it's amazing. And this forces you to see things differently. It's like, well, so what now am I going to complain about Western medicine? What's my critique of Western medicine? What's my critique of Western education when I'm relying on, these institutions who care about my neurodivergent kids to help me try and get them through? How am I going to keep critiquing all of these institutions that I rely on so much? How can I move my criticism towards something that's actually going to help, rather than just being, the firebrand and the anarcho-communist who's run around the edges, bloody, like a dog biting the tires of a car, What do I do now? I mean, maybe you guys can advise me.
I think you're on the path. And my brother was also bipolar, my older brother, and he committed suicide in my house. So I take this stuff extremely seriously, and I've had my struggles with depression also, so I know that dark side of the street. And I'm going to say also, you're besides knowing about the Aboriginal world, and you're also highly educated in science and philosophy, and it's quite a package. So I would just say, hang in there, brother. I think you're getting better, and I think we need you around. So, and you've already tasted the darkness. So, I love it when you just started talking about a bit of the light. It gives me hope, and because we're in a mess. But there's anyway.
Yeah,
there's light. As light as dark is, the light is even brighter.
That's it. But I think Roger, you seem to be a man who has consistency down. I think that's what I need is because when I'm good, I'm really, really good.
Yeah, you have some extraordinary.
I connect really well, and I'm an amazing communicator and a really good listener. But that's inconsistent, because then I drop off too, and I drop off quite spectacularly. So I need to get my consistency down.
Well, with being bipolar, that kind of drop off is completely, it's completely understandable. What's mind-boggling to me, by the way, my profession is a psychiatrist, is it's mind-boggling to me that you have done so much and contributed so much before being treated for this. That's just mind-boggling to me. That you've suffered from age 9 to this degree of severity, and being this creative burst during the mania. I can understand, but to have the kind of output you've had over a lifetime, the contributions, the connections, the communication, etc. That's I bow in respect to you.
No, it's it has been hard just dealing with that. It's pretty much hell on earth. Like it's a internal sort of hellscape to be constantly in. But you know what works is just the funny. And I think that's what gets us through that book, Sand Talk, that you're talking about there. Mm-hmm. It's what gets us through all the inconsistencies and the ups and downs and the moments of what the hell's he saying now? It's just the funny, It's the capacity to be able to laugh.
And were you able to hold that during even the depths of depression?
I was. It's what gets you through. It's what Hey, you know how in Sand Talk it starts, the book starts with that paragraph on echidnas?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just kind of I don't know. a bookish kind of musing about the neurological capacity of an echidna.
Yeah.
Because their prefrontal cortex is just massive, like bigger in proportion than ours, and they're obviously doing some really complex thinking, but we have no idea what they're we don't know what the hell are they thinking about. Why do they need all that brain power? Their brain's bigger in proportion to their body size than ours is. Like, are they like plotting against us? Yeah, I don't know. So there was that opening. I did an echidna opening on the next book, and this is an answer to the question of did I maintain the funny? Yes, I did. So the opening paragraph of the next book is about echidnas as well, but it goes, did you know that male echidnas have 4 penises? If I were as smart as an echidna, I could use that factoid to come up with an evolutionary theory about male dominance and project it onto my own species, then sell a truckload of books. It's not really a fact, though. He only has 1 grotesque dick with 4 heads, and his mate probably doesn't want that horrible thing anywhere near either of her vaginas. Anyway, so it starts like that.
That's a different opening, Ryan. Yeah.
And then it gets weirder from there.
I got to read this book.
That makes me laugh, like because of the whole, I don't know, that whole Jordan Peterson thing and the lobsters, and you know what I mean? All these influencers who, they seem like they know a lot, and they're citing all this evolutionary science and, all the rest of it, and it seems like they're really smart, and they're kind of like just asking questions, and it's, it's I know it's an uncomfortable fact, but there are no female chess grandmasters, like they're saying these things, and they kind of get people that way. Anyway, like right from the first paragraph, I'm making fun of that and debunking that. This whole idea of these secular gurus in the world, getting around like influencing people in some pretty horrible directions, and basically that's nudging people constantly towards fascism, towards autocracy, towards exclusionary politics, and all these sorts of things. Yeah. So anyway, this whole book is just sort of lashing back about against that with some sort of very dark humor. Yeah, it's a weird book. It's certainly weirder than Sand Talk, and Sand Talk got as weird as hell in some bits, as you know. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you hoping the book will do, Tyson?
I have no idea. I did write it in quite a series of altered states, and I have trouble with it. I can't see it all in my head, if that makes any sense. I don't have a unified picture in my head of that book, and I try to flick through it to try and get it in my mind as a unified whole, so I can speak about it properly. And but it just keeps running through my fingers like quicksilver.
I wonder if it's kind of a state-specific learning or state-specific understanding. You were in a very different state when you wrote
it. That's it.
And it probably doesn't hold for you now.
Well, it was quite a dangerous book. The first draft, I got 2 different psychiatrists to go through and edit it to take out the parts that would be potentially damaging for people. That would be triggering, upsetting, not just upsetting, but that they like the parts that they thought might encourage people to kill themselves. Because weirdly, that's happened with Sand Talk quite a bit.
Really?
Like, yeah, every other week I got to talk someone off a ledge. They contact me through my university email address, which is public, and they're like, I just read Sand Talk and I want to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. And then, then I contact them back and say, look, just send me your phone number right now, and I'll talk you through it. And then it's a couple of hours of like, talking someone through their their process.
I mean, there are some dark implications to the book. It's like
Well, there are people don't want to be in civilization. In these civilizations, it hurts them, it damages them, and they want to be in a habitat. They want to be in a habitat as the species that they are. And the moment they become aware that they can't be, and that they won't ever be able to be, and that their children and their children's children won't be able to either, a lot of people, in that moment, they despair so much that they want to end their life. So I mentioned that in the book, the Avatar depression. Avatar depression, that when people watch that movie Avatar and then they want to kill themselves, like they get depressed, and like it's a whole condition. Like they have to have medication and a specific dosage and everything for that particular form of depression. It's just blew my mind when I was reading the articles about it. People watch this lifestyle on this other planet of people living in embedded existence in the landscape, and they know they can never have that, and they just want to die. It's awful. So this is why when I look at my own pathologies and the way I'm feeling, and then I look out at the world, I kind of go, this is not just me. No tree burns alone, we're all burning with the same fire, and I look out at the world and I see the same patterns and pathologies, and I think, what if I work my way through this with story? What if I try to, do something therapeutic by going right in, by pressing down on the painful spots and see what pops out? What if I press all those buttons and see how we go? What if I lean into the pain and come out the other side and survive it? And what if I take you with me as the reader, and that together we deal with our pain, and we see it reflected in the world around us, see all these pathologies, and how these are just contributing to and growing and multiplying the catastrophic risk of this meta crisis that's just eating the planet alive. What if we do that together, us too? What if we go on a journey? Anyway, that's this next book. Like I said, a lot of bits had to be taken out because, just for the safety of the reader.
So you're sometimes called a prototypical person. That is someone who's is in their own being is processing the challenges of their time, their era. And so you have this bipolar, and part of the content that it's taking, the form it's taking, feels like an implosion of the various great challenges and threats of our time. Our own being. And
look
through, maybe you can guide a light for the rest of people.
Yeah. Well, it was weird where the mania went. Like over COVID and with these lockdowns, 2 years of lockdowns, locked in a house with just my spouse and 2 neurodivergent kids.
Wow.
Aggressively neurodivergent kids. It's 20-hour days. It was just it was interesting where the mania went. Because it wasn't mania. The mania is usually something I can look forward to because it feels good. But this went down. It spiraled down real deep and dark. It did not feel good. I was still hyper vigilant and hyper aware and all the rest of the hyper, but just in hell, like in the most dark, horrific place, and looking at the world and looking at these crises multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And so the book sort of came out of that. It came out of that spiraling into hell, and that's why I went chasing Dante. Alighieri, in his sort of descent into hell with Virgil.
Mm.
You know, there's a place in this book toward the end in the chapter, Be Like Your Place, where it's very mystical. It's actually very beautiful. And it was like, yeah, because it's a hard book. I mean, it's not hard to read. It's really easy to get into the flow of it. But yeah, you're basically sound like you're having a vision there. And
Yeah.
reminded me of our beat poets in the United States, like Kerouac and Berg and all of that. And it was quite beautiful. Have you had moments where you've seen through this darkness and seen something? Well, you wrote about it, actually.
Yeah, I have, but you need to remember that those are also altered states.
Yeah.
You know, these are the reasons. So as Aboriginal people, we structure these things with ceremony and with ritual, you know. These things are structured in such a way that they do not cross over into the mundane. You're not supposed to have visions in your day-to-day life, because that sort of messes up your relationships, because you have obligations to the people around you. You know, you have things to do. The altered states are supposed to happen in ceremony, and that's supposed to be secret and sacred and over there. You know, these things are not supposed to happen from your day to day. And so when you're a person like me, you occupy a very marginal place in the community. So I'm known as a Want, and Want means deaf, but also crazy, because mental illness is seen in our culture as a loss of the ability to hear and to listen. You know, it's seen as something that affects your ear, and I'm both hearing impaired and and crazy. So, you know, I'm a big Want in my community. That means, you know, I'm capable of moments of brilliance and all that sort of thing, but you can't trust me to contribute to decision making and governance in the community. I can't be trusted for that, because I don't leave the altered states in the ceremony. The altered states follow me around in the world, and I'm someone who must be cared for and must be loved, and who contributes, you know, some pretty great things to the community. But also, I'm not someone who can be trusted from moment to moment. You know, you take anything I say with a grain of salt. Yeah, and I know that sounds exclusionary and not very PC, not very you know, sensitive about people with mental illness and everything. But it's important. It's important. So we don't like it when people Kerouac around and or people, like, you know, drop a bit of ketamine and say they're talking to the insectoid aliens or the machine elves who have given them the blueprint for a new kind of satellite or something like that. We're not down with that. We don't like it. That's stuff that's supposed to happen in ceremony, and it's supposed to be secret, and it's supposed to be sacred. You know, magic is something that's in the universe, but it's not meant to scale. It's not meant to be brought across as a technology into the mundane. It's something that's sacred, and it's just there that it's supposed to be part of caring for the landscape, your custodial role spiritually in this world. So yes, you know, I have visions and they're there. And, you know, and when I report on these things, it's the wrong way. I'm not supposed to be doing that. You know, I'm in wrong relation when I'm doing that. And it's partially this wrong relation that sort of gives a bit of a window into our world. And, you know, and I think it's what people like when they read my stuff. They're like seeing something, and they know that they're seeing something they're not really supposed to see. But they're also watching somebody like spectacularly falling apart before their eyes. And it's like watching a train crash or something. You can't look away. It's not necessarily pleasant, but it's very arresting. I think anyway. That's how I feel if I like try and put myself in someone else's shoes and then try and read a page of my work. I feel like that. So I imagine that's how people feel on some level when they're reading. You know what else? Was it not much of Sandtalk. Sandtalk wasn't selling very well until COVID started. And like everybody panicked and went, oh my God, the world's burning. We're all going to die. Help. And they're looking around. Where can I find the wisdom? is there ancient wisdom here? Look, this is like indigenous thinking going to save the world. And people just grabbed it like a drowning man, and suddenly it started selling. And then it was a bestseller because I think people were desperate for answers. And I think people like the idea that there's ancient wisdom because of that logical fallacy. What's it called? Argumentum ad antiquitatem. That argument from tradition, from antiquity. The idea that if something's old, if something's traditional, then it must be right. It must be good. It must be pure. And I think people look to that. And also ad naturam, that idea that if something's natural, and so people see indigenous knowledge as being natural and ancient, and therefore it must be good. What can I have? What can I take from that will make me feel better? That will make me feel like there's some hope for the future. So I think people are attracted to that. Although, even in Sandtalk, I spent half my time like slapping people for that. I spend half my time debunking the idea that I'm just like, don't look here for your answers. There's nothing here for you. Go away. That's like half of Sandtalk is doing that, but in funny ways. And then, setting people up to understand that there's contemporary, that indigeneity and indigenous knowledge is contemporary, and that it's based on indigenous processes rather than indigenous things, Yeah. And I don't know, it's always been the thing for me, is to try and share the way rather than the thing, share the cognition, the ways of thinking rather than the dream catcher, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, you're communicating a way of thinking and being and relating, rather than any, as you say, rather than any cute artifact that people like to pick up.
Yeah, I think it's a hunger for wisdom, and we're not finding it much in our modern world. So that makes us hungry to go back, go walk about, go sleep under the stars, go listen to the elders or the people that are transmitting it into the world to give us some, as you said, give us some hope, give us some wisdom, give us a way to walk. And of course, your people have been there 65,000 years. You said maybe more. You learned something in that amount of time. They didn't destroy each other. There's got to be a source there. That's good.
Well, I'm starting to think that all indigenous knowledge and wisdom and pretty much the entire human experiment, and way of being, that we're here to answer basically two questions. This is your whole entire culture, but also your entire life. And your purpose of being here is to answer two questions. It's how do you deal with change, and how do you deal with ourselves? That sounds simple and silly, but that's like your two main questions. And if you can answer them, if you can come up with ways to adapt and move through change, climate change, all kinds of change, massive change around you. If you can deal with changing contexts, and if you can deal with the assholes that try and prevent you from moving and changing, within that, if you can deal with the assholes who are constantly trying to destroy everything that you are and everything that you have, if you can figure out ways to deal with those two things, then you've done the whole project. That's the whole project. That's the two questions right there. Yeah. And I don't know. I think I answer those pretty well, or offer some good ideas and good thinking about that in Sandtalk. Just if I'm going to say like one good thing about it, it's that.
You're reminding me of the people who have experienced near-death experiences, and the question they come back with is, or that they feel they've been asked is, how well have I loved?
Because that's all there is. There's no self to actualize. It's everything that you are is just a web of relations. You are a relational net. and that's what you are. No one
Yeah.
else has quite the web of relations that you have, and you exist in obligation to those.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's what empowers you, but it's also what holds you in check. And it's both positive and negative feedback loops.
Yeah, it kept me from killing myself. That web.
Yeah, yeah.
relationships.
Yeah, that's it. That's when you wake up every day going, oh man, I want to die. And then it's like, no, I got to look after these people. That's it. And it's like, oh man, well, what's everybody gonna like? Yeah, how will they deal with it? They're just gonna like, that'll just mess them up for years. I can't do that to them. Yeah. But then every now and then it just it gets that bad that you can ignore that, and then you have another shot at it. And anyway, I was incredibly lucky. And I don't know, there was this one experience I had, and it's in the city, so it's weird that it happened like this. But how can I say this without triggering people? Anyway, I'm right on the point of it, and then this freaking owl came and like flew right in front of my face, and then stopped and landed right in front of me, and was just glaring at me and wouldn't go away until I got down. Yeah. There's just been experiences like that. When people have yanked me back onto the platform at the station, or et cetera, et cetera. Or there's been a hole in the bag, and I don't know, that hole wasn't there before. Now the hole's there. Like stuff happens, and you're like, okay, so all right, so I got to stick around for a bit longer. Yeah, these things happen, and I'm glad they happen now, like that. Well, you might resent them at the time. Yeah, you might have to cut all that. That might. That's the kind of stuff I had to cut out of the book. Yeah.
It feels like this is very real, Tyson. Very real,
Well,
very.
I hint at this in the next one, but it's stuff you won't know unless you get the references. Because even though I was spiraling downwards, I was still spiraling. I built the whole book, like it's coded and layered, in that many ways. And so, I can talk about, I can encode the idea of suicide in there because I'm referring to the harpies in the trees in a certain circle of hell, and they're the ones who, it's in the circle of hell, it's for violence. And so they're stinging people for all eternity who are suicides, in the trees. And so anyway, I just refer to those harpies and say, I'll stay away from the harpies, stay away from the trees because there's harpies in there. And I can tell you from experience, they sting a bit. They give you a good nip. Like I'll say stuff like that. That's not quite saying, all the bits that I had to take out about suicide, but it's there, like this coded stuff. Yeah. And but I boycotted most of that circle of hell anyway, as a protest, until the Minotaur agrees to let all the sodomites go. You probably don't deserve to be in that circle of hell just for being gay, Anyway, at the end of that chapter, the Minotaur agrees to free all the sodomites, but he doesn't agree to stop calling them sodomites. Anyway, we'll fight that battle another day.
That's progress.
Yeah. We'll work on the Minotaur's language on another day. Yeah. Oh, he kept some of them though. He kept some of the sodomites there because they were also like lenders during the lead up to the global financial crisis. They were selling bad mortgages, so I had to keep a few of the sodomites there. Yeah. Which anyway, I think that's funny. It's just me talking to the Minotaur in hell. Yeah.
Well,
I guess that's what it's like to live in two worlds,
yeah,
one above and one below.
yeah. And how's it feel now with a little more balance looking at those two worlds?
Yeah, no, it's just they're that's what makes this book I can't see it. It's like occluded to me. I can remember bits of it in isolation like that, but I can't see the whole thing. So I guess what it's like is just sort of trying to look back at something that's really hazy and it makes no sense. You know,
Yeah.
it's dark and it's patchy and there's the memories are I can't trust them, you know, in bits and pieces. But you know, most of my life has been like that. You know, I don't have. I think my first memory that as far back as I can remember, is about age 6 or 7. I don't really remember anything before that, and then I only remember bits and pieces. You know, so my memory has always been like that when it comes to experience. Anyway, now the book is like that. It's really weird. And Sand Talk too. Like I used to know it backwards. I used to know that book backwards. You know. Um, and I could talk about any page in that whole book. And now it's just hazy memory to me, fuzzy. Phasey is a cross between hazy and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Just invented a new word. There you go.
And Tyson, you mentioned that Melbourne had one of the harshest lockdowns in the whole world, and a lot of people went pretty nuts around there. And
Oh my God.
your episode on your podcast, the others, there's an episode there on the rise of the anti-vax movement and the fact that the Aboriginal people had themselves gone. A lot of them had gone down the rabbit hole around the anti-vax stuff, and you said we're marching with neo Nazis, etc.
Yeah.
Caught in the middle because you
Yep.
somehow retained your perspective on that and a kind of critical attitude. When lost, it sounds like you lost a lot of friends at that time.
Yeah. No, I have lost a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of readers too, because half the people who are reading Sand Talk were, you know, so people who have a militia in a compound really enjoyed that book. You know, they feel like they're getting paleo wisdom on how to be an alpha male or something. I think those people like my rough, angry alpha voice, you know, and the way I talk. You know, yeah, the Manosphere really liked me. Lots of crypto fascists really liked that book. You know, I guess because I was watching so much Russia Today, I was like, you know, yeah, well, quite a bit of my discourse was bending that way, and was like, I don't know, a bit dog whistly without me even really knowing it. But yeah, COVID did exacerbate things and accelerated things in the disinformation space, but also just in the whole radicalization and polarization, you know, of everybody and everything, you know, all at once. Yeah, that I don't know, things became pretty clear to me. You know, that these are not innocent or fun things, and it's not just like, oh well, you know, I just have my opinion and all that sort of stuff. It's like, well, if you just have your opinion, then if you're not going to take responsibility for it, then you should probably keep it to yourself. You know, you have relational obligations in this world, and you know,
it's a very good point, Tyson. Yeah,
exactly.
As
but people feel like they because it's free speech, that they don't have to put any effort into forming an opinion, and that they can just do and say what feels good, but then spread that and then actively try and recruit people to that because it makes you feel good. But it's like, have you thought it through, bros? Have you thought where this leads you, where this takes you? Have you thought where this takes your family and your friends and all the people who are listening to you? It's not good. Anyway, that's where all these influences go. And that's what this second book is about. It's trying to wind back that. It's trying to undo the damage that I did in the world through some of my discourses in Sand Talk, and you know, the contributions I made towards, you know, that whole sort of influencer culture, and you know, all the rest of it that just exploded over COVID, Roger. Yeah.
And what was it what was it that enabled you to keep a balance during that time when the world was going even more crazy?
Weirdly, it was just because of living in suicidal ideation all the time, and having my particular pathology gives you a lack of self-care. I have very little self-care, so I don't know, like, I don't have to manage my image in public. I don't have to do perception management. I don't have to like project, oh, this is what I want people to think of me, like, because I just don't care. And it's not that I don't care out of a lack of care for others. It's just a lack of care for self, you know. So I think that's what enabled me. That's what's enabled me to do that. It's just a lack of self-care. It's not coming from any special qualities, because a lack of self-care is actually a bad thing. I've realized since I got medicated. It's not like, it's not just a pathology. I don't know. The problem is, and this is what I've been forced to ask myself, how can you care for others if you don't care for yourself?
Yeah.
And here I am all the time valorizing relatedness as a way of being in the world, valorizing kinship. And, I'm always putting on a pedestal my relationships. These are the things that are the center of my life. But I think I'm overcompensating with those, because I have a lack of self-care. And if I don't care for myself, then how can I really care for all those people, because they care for me. And, it's supposed to be reciprocal. A relational space that's built between two people, is supposed to have that push-pull. It's supposed to have that engagement. And I'm only halfway engaging if I don't care about myself. And that's the trick. That's what
It's
I'm
out of
trying
balance. And it just doesn't work.
That's it. Yeah, but I guess being out of balance in that way allowed me to see a whole heap of stuff. It allowed me to see what the problem is with personal development, personal growth, self-help, all these kinds of things. It's allowed me to see the problem of developmental models, whether it's for a nation in terms of development, or whether it's for a human being in terms of, integral theory or anything else like that, or hierarchies of needs or anything. Yeah. Developmental models are just, they're rubbish. They destroy relatedness. They destroy everything. They have everybody focused.
I'm not following that. How is that? How do developmental models destroy relationship? Because it feels like as people, say, mature, they become more effective at relating.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to read the book for that.
Okay.
I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to have to buy the book. I need to sell a few of these things. If I sell enough of them, I'm going to buy some land back off you bastards. I'm going to buy some of my own land back if I sell enough of these.
Well, I don't own any of it, so you won't be buying it from me.
No, but it's just, you are like, you bastards. Yeah.
I got it. I'm just an icon.
Yeah. I don't have time. I don't have time to compartmentalize everybody. I'm just gonna have to paint you all with the same brush. And settlers, colonists, whatever.
Okay.
No, I'm only joking. I don't do that. Yeah, I'm pretty good with that, actually. My elders call me the settler whisperer as a joke.
You've got a lot of identities, Tyson.
I do. Yeah. Anyway.
But I'm glad I echo what John said about the balance. I'm glad you're seeing the importance of looking after yourself, and that's a real contribution to everyone.
Yeah, that's it. And that you can't care for other people if you don't care about yourself. But I still have the habits that come with that. Even though I started to care for myself, I don't know how to do it. So I guess I still have lingering tendencies to be able to critique myself without really caring too much.
But I think there's a book in all this, your journey and the stuff that we've been talking about here. It could be Very
Yeah,
proud.
the next one's it's going to be, I'm going to try fiction this time, straight fiction. Yeah, I'm going to do an Australian um, climate apocalypse version of Steinbeck's Mice and Men, and do that. It's going to be me at 60, walking around, from, cooling station to militia compound to settlements, across, like, with waves of climate refugees across this entire continent. But it's going to be me and my massive autistic son walking around, and I've got no access to meds, and I'm trying to figure that out. So it's going to be like Steinbeck. And anyway, my little son, he's going to be, is it Lenny? Yeah, in Steinbeck there, But in the end, it's going to have a bit less of the misogyny and all that kind of stuff. And I know it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to do an apocalyptic Mice and Men. That's my plan at the moment, anyway.
Okay, well, maybe after that one, I want to put in a plug for John, what John's saying, that just a memoir of your life and your experience and how you've worked with bipolar and come to this point, and how you've somehow managed to be so creative during those lows as well as highs, and how you've.
I'm trying to read one of those at the moment. I can't even remember her name. She's a psychiatrist, got bipolar. It's boring though. It's not much of a page turner. Reading about someone just talking about their own life. It's like, oh, come on, man. I don't know. Normal lives are a bit boring.
Well, you said in your book, the one I read, that stories are the way we finally get things that we retain.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll make it autobiographic then, but and I'll take your advice, but I'll just make the setting sort of more interesting, like dystopian science fiction setting, just so the readers don't get bored. I do feel an obligation to the reader that you've got to excite them at least once every couple of pages, or make them laugh. Otherwise, what the hell are you there for?
Well, I think an autobiography would be a real contribution, and I don't imagine you'd be writing something boring.
Yeah, I'll try not to. But you never know. I'm medicated now. I might just be boring as hell.
Well, so far, not so much. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you, it's been weird. I have no idea how this is working out, but it's so people have started actually publishing interviews again now. But for the last year, I've been doing at least one a week, sometimes 2 or 3 interviews with people for podcasts. But there's only been about half a dozen over the whole year, the whole previous year, that have gone up. Because as I got more and more dysfunctional and deeper into that mental illness, it was just nonsense. People were like sending me emails back saying, sorry, we can't use any of the footage that we recorded for the podcast because it's just gibberish. Please see someone. Yeah, there was like almost a year of that. So 2023 has been like it's been a bit of a dead zone in terms of media for me, because people have been unable to publish anything that I've been saying. It's just been a weird time. Anyway, thank God for medication. Yay, Western medicine, I say.
It has its good points.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a whole bit now that like bush medicine's great, but it only works in the bush. If you're gonna be trying to treat the malaises of civilization, then you're probably gonna want to use civilized medicine. Yeah.
Well, maybe the malaises of civilization could be treated with what technically is now called nature deficit disorder. Maybe some nature is the remedy, but something with a genetic predisposition and who knows what else. Meds work.
That's it. I'm also like really into the scientific method now. Like, I'm a convert. I'm verifying and falsifying freaking everything, bro. So getting around in my world, applying scientific method everywhere. It's beautiful. Anyway, I'm loving it.
Well, I go with that. Sounds like that's one of the things that saved you during the COVID epidemic and the craziness that happened. You were actually reading the data and
Yeah,
going
that's it.
what the studies showed.
Well, it actually seems a lot more like indigenous knowledge processes than not the actual scientific method. Yeah, it's we do a lot. We have a lot of very intense, peer-based verification and falsification stuff going on, like the whole time. Everything's verified or falsified. Everything's tested. Everything is, there has to be a consensus, a kind of peer review happening the whole time with indigenous knowledge. Nobody can go off unilaterally and discover something. So yeah, and when I look at the scientific community, that's what I actually see. When you see pseudoscience or mad science, it's the opposite of that. But authentic science is a communal and careful process that takes place over long periods of time, and in that sense, it's very similar to indigenous knowledge, and I'm digging it.
Yeah, it certainly has its place, and particularly in our contemporary world, where there are umpteen narratives in competition, very ungrounded, a large number of them. There's the loss of so-called loss of meaning making, and how do we ground our yarns, to use your word, in actual data that has some solidity and validity, and then we can make a contribution. But if we're just totally lost and going down rabbit holes, we're in this culture in trouble. President Obama had a great thing in his autobiography. He talked about one of the great crises of our time being an epistemological crisis. That is knowing how the hell we can ground our conversations in some sort of shared reality.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I guess he struggled because it was at a bit of a turning point, so so Andrew Wakefield puts out a study, linking autism to vaccines, and he did that unilaterally. He did it with funding from Big Law, Big Legal, because they saw they could make a killing out of that, suing the government and stuff like that. And he also did it out of interests that he had in single shot measles and mumps vaccines, and so he went after the combo, the MMA combo. And it was bad science. It was a tiny sample, and it was the whole thing was bloody rigged, as it turns out. But these things take time. It takes time to investigate these things. It takes time to run these same things over and over and see if the results can be replicated. It takes time to debunk them. It takes time to then test them properly with a large population and large samples. And you know what I mean? It takes time to run these tests. And as it happens, it took like a decade. So Obama stood up, and so did McCain at the time too, and actually announced to the world, it looks like there may be a link between autism and vaccines. We're looking into it. It took 10 years to do the science properly, because proper science takes time. In the meantime, your idiots in the world just went absolutely nuts on that, because they're not constrained by any kind of relational ethos or any communal knowledge or collective knowledge ethos as authentic science is, and they have a faster cycle, reproductive cycle.
Yep.
So therefore, the evolutionary cycle for wrong stories is incredibly rapid. And Obama had no idea about that. None of us had any idea about that at the time. We were happy to allow those larger, longer, deeper cycles to take place, of rigor and all the rest. But, we have no time for that anymore. We're going to have to go faster. We have to be able, people are developing the skills to be able to investigate and debunk something quickly. There are lots of really good networks of really good thinkers and really good investigators who are doing this. And a lot of it is crowdsourced as well, because there are just really talented people just online who are able to, get together and do group sort of verification things and feed data back to the people who are, authenticating all of this stuff and investigating and putting it all together. So, we're starting to find ways where we can move faster together and collectively have a large diversity of opinion, but share a narrative on reality and what is real. And if you can get even me, like a mad mongrel indigene from the bottom of the world, who like hates everything about the colony and about civilization, if you can actually get a fella like me to line up and share a narrative, with everybody else, and an agreement on what is real and what is not in the world, then I guess there's got to be hope for everybody, eh?
Well, Tyson, you also have the ability to say, I was wrong. And not everybody can do that. Not many people can do that. And
yeah, but like I say, that's not a positive personality trait. That's simply coming from a lack of self-care. It's not because I have a highly developed, personality or, self or anything. It's not because I'm actualized. It's just because I don't care. I haven't learned how to care about that yet. I will learn how to care, and then I'll start lying like everyone else, and then I'll be healthy. Nah.
I'm not so sure, Tyson. My take is Sean's right. You are willing to acknowledge in a way, to a degree that most people, probably myself too, aren't. But I was wrong there, or I was doing that from a particular state, or there was this this bias that I was under, and that's a very important thing. I mean, the world would be a different place if all of us were better able to acknowledge we were wrong.
Well, look, maybe I'm doing it in a way that looks cool or something, and then people will see that, like, especially all these, fellas online who want to be alpha males and that kind of thing. All the bro science guys that debate me, bro, tech bros, all those idiots out there who are following Elon Musk, like weird caterpillars or something. Maybe they'll look at this and think, oh no, that could actually be cool. I could work that.
No,
and, you never know. Then maybe people will be able to, admit that they were wrong where they were at with their thinking, and that maybe they got sucked in by some bad information and by some bad influences.
Tyson, you're reminding me of Ram Dass, who was such a powerful teacher for me. And Ram Dass was a master of acknowledging his mistakes. I mean, it was almost the other extreme. He barely wait to tell you about them, but some of his best stories were screwed up. And
that's it. Cool.
The fake guru he fell for, the rabbit hole he went down, but he was a pioneer and he kept exploring. And bless him, when you knew that if he was making a mistake, he would acknowledge it really quickly. And so you could trust him in that way. And I used to think, that really wise, mature people never screwed up. Now I realize everyone screws up, but the mature people also clean up. And it's
clean up. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Yeah.
It's only just us humans. We all screw up. Okay. Am I willing to clean up? I think you're modeling that in a very beautiful way.
Sweet.
Yeah. How's this dialogue feeling to you, Tyson? Feels very different from any I've heard.
I don't know. I just make it up as I go along. I'd like to just be able to talk about the books. I've been able to do that before and ignore the context a bit, but I mean, the books are about paying attention to your context and being in your context. No matter how shitty it is, like being authentically in it so that you can be responsive to it, so you can be in relation with what's real. So maybe it's good that I can't just talk about the books on their own anymore. Like separate little things floating in the cosmos.
Well, this is today's yarn. This is where we went together. And
Exactly.
I feel it was really real, bro.
Yeah.
You're BSing us at all. And that's big.
Well, you guys can just go through it and see if there's anything that can be salvaged.
Oh,
And I won't be offended if there's not, because like often that there's not. People just go, yeah, Tyson, we can't use any of that.
Tyson, we can use this.
Yep.
This is, John said it, this is authenticity plus. You are in real time sharing your life, where you are, what you've been through, the highs and the lows, and the really highs and really lows. And it's very extremely touching. And I'm moved to say something. I'm just moved by many things you've said. One of them that you get these calls from people on a ledge and you get their phone number immediately and call them. And it's like, well, if I could ever be of support to you, I would just love you to give you my phone number and have you be able to call at any time.
Wait, thanks, Bryce.
Feels like you are really making a contribution, and your life is your contribution. Your authenticity, your honesty, your lack of defensiveness, your willingness to put it all out there, that is your contribution. And some of it comes through in the books. And that's fine. That's a great medium, but it's not the whole one. It feels to me like the uniqueness and pricelessness of your gift is your willingness to have this kind of conversation in real time, right now, no holds barred, nothing held back. This is me as I am. That is a gift. That is authenticity. That is, and do we need authenticity, honesty, and a willingness to go with what the evidence shows and to say, oh, I missed that. I was wrong. I just enormous respect for you, Tyson. I'm deeply, and I can see John is too, deeply, deeply, deeply touched by this conversation. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, that's really good to know.
Yeah, no,
it's
this has really touched me. And I know it's touched John too. I can see it. I feel this.
It takes a lot of effort for me to not talk like this.
Well,
so talking like this is really easy. It's when I've just lost all the energy and capacity to hold that back, and try and I don't know, be trivial.
I encourage you to not try to change it. That this is you and you in your authenticity and fullness and wholeness and messiness are the gift you have to give. And
yeah, sweet.
As a what's called, the Jungians called an epical person, a person who in their own being is working with the issues of the time. And you're an epical person.
EPOCAL. As an epoch.
EPOCH as an epoch. Epical.
Epoch. Okay, epical. All right.
Epical person. A person who is embodying and instantiating the issues of their time and working through their own life. You're an epical or epochal person. However you pronounce that word,
that feels about right.
And you're also something else, Tyson. I just want to drop this in. Jung also had another profound concept of the Gnostic intermediary. And the Gnostic intermediary is someone who translates wisdom from one culture to another. And it requires three processes. It requires first imbibing the wisdom of one's native culture or another culture so deeply that it becomes part of one's being. It requires learning the language and conceptual system of culture you're wanting to communicate to. And then it requires being able to translate out of your own immediate experience into the concepts of the other culture so as to create an aha experience. That's what you're doing. You are taking your Aboriginal indigenous wisdom, you are speaking it from your own direct experience, and you are a master of Western concepts, academia, intellectuality, or et cetera, and you are translating it not only through the high intellectual, but through the demotic, as you call it, the common language, in a way that people can get. That's your gift.
Well, I can thank Dante for that, I guess.
Well, other people, you don't
coming to
know, really.
Dante at a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there Tyson, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, well, it'd be great to just keep yarning all day. Like for a few days, that'd be awesome. But I've got to go and look after this little boy.
Yeah,
He's
you do.
starting to make those bereft sounds that he makes from
Okay.
time to time. Yeah.
Tyson, thank you so much. I'm going to send you my phone number. If I can ever be of support, I'd love to be. Again, such deep respect, a deep bow to you. Thank you for all your good work. And thank you for hanging in there and not jumping off a ledge or anything, and being around to contribute in the enormous ways you do.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, it's been
Thanks,
really good.
John.
Really been good. And your big heart is going to lead you through this, and let us be part of your web, and as the man said, all you need is love. That helps us sort all the stuff out when you get down to it. So anyway, it's been
Absolutely.
terrific. Thank you, brother.
No worries.
Thank you, Tyson.